jobs.
Yeah, but how much are they getting paid for the jobs? Or those jobs in the third world where they're getting paid pennies,
Yeah,
and then
versus
he
no
makes
job.
millions.
That's not that I hate. See, that is a first world mindset.
Yeah.
It's like at least they have a job. It's like no, those
no.
people in the third world deserve dignity.
It's like you came in and you took advantage of all the resources, and you're like, now work for me.
I gave you a job, poor
Yeah.
people. Like no, like they deserve dignity. They deserve to own their own resources.
It's like, so all that was not in it. We'd have to download it.
I like the
Alright,
first
so
like
Rich versus Poor is the economy.
recut the start.
Yeah.
All right, let's try that again. So we're watching Jubilee.
Yeah.
Rich versus poor, and we're gonna watch specifically being poor as a choice, billionaires shouldn't exist, and $15 minimum wage is not enough.
Yeah.
Let's
I
do
don't
it.
usually skip to the...
Just skip. Being poor is a choice.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Ugh.
Being poor is a choice.
Oh shit.
But since I've been here, specifically in LA, a lot of people outside, they don't want to come into the shelter because they'd rather be in the tents.
I mean, I grew up poor, so I
I don't know if that's.
How could you say most people don't choose to be poor, but then say being poor is a choice?
I don't think.
Like, you just contradicted yourself. I understand a lot of Americans have contradicting beliefs,
Yeah.
but like,
A little nonsensical.
yeah, it is a little nonsensical.
Ah well.
I have been on both sides of the coin,
Okay.
and I can reflect and look back on some of the lifestyle choices that I was making, some of the people that I was hanging around. So I don't think that people can initially control if they're born into poverty,
Right.
but I think that there is a certain level of control that comes along with being able to have that determination and that resilience. Yeah.
So, I mean, I'll add something to it. So, you know, I think there are self-destructive behaviors that poor people have that rich people have, but because poor people have less resources, those same habits are just not as sustainable.
Yeah.
And I think a part of the reason that's the case is because I think we have a cult of richness. Like, back when I was still in college, we actually talked about it. Like, why do Americans love the royals so much in Great Britain, you know, in the UK? Why do we obsess over them? And why do we obsess over our rich people here, like Kardashians and stuff? It's like, we don't have a royalty, right?
Yeah.
We don't have a noble class as, you know, as like the Europeans do.
We still created them.
So we kind of created one, and because we, like, on some level, there's poor people idolize them. They copy those lifestyle choices. But I think that's the problem, right? I think, I guess what I'm saying is I think the problem is that society is pushing people into bad habits because we're encouraging the chasing of status, the chasing of, you know, that confirmation of importance, wealth, being seen. I don't know. You know what I'm trying to get at? Like,
like, I would also say it's partly because of, like, you know, we want to attain it one day. We want to have something to look forward to. Be like, oh yeah, that's the goalpost. That's
aspiration.
The yeah.
Yeah.
And going back to, like, rich people having more resources, like, if you're young and you're screwing up because, you know, you want to have fun, live your life, and if you're rich, you know, that's okay because at the end of the day, you can still be picked up and supported despite you making those mistakes. But if you're poor, I mean, that's it. Like, then you'd be starting from a much lower standpoint because you don't have the golden spoon to pick you up. And also, like, you know, it's you dig a deeper hole when you're poor than
Here's
if
the
you're
thing.
rich.
But, you know, there is one thing I will say. When people say, and this is something that I think a lot of people get wrong, is, oh, if you're poor, move on, get a different job. But I think, because I've been covering so much union action, frankly, I think unionization is an act of personal responsibility.
Yeah.
Because you are taking power into your hands, working with those people who are beside you to make better money, to force those people to pay you better money.
Yeah.
So, oh, we got a comment.
Yeah, guy commented.
Abbasing.
I don't
Hi.
know what that says.
I don't know. It's emoji faces.
Yeah, I don't know. But
Sorry, I don't know what emojis mean.
Texted words, and then I can understand.
Saying words, goddammit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think. But the problem is that, like, the mentality of being poor as a choice, I think, is often linked to individualism.
Yeah.
When I think individualism doesn't work for the vast majority of people. The reason why unions are powerful is because of the collective action. So personal responsibility, I think, works better with collective action versus than the individualistic perspective that it comes from. That the being poor as a choice comes from.
And you could find stats that show that, you know, over the decades, the buying power of the middle class has fallen. It's become harder to climb the socioeconomic ladder. There are events like the 2008 housing crisis that basically made people poor. All of their savings that were in their house just gone.
Union participation dropping in that entire time in the background.
Yeah, also that's union participation falling. Like, there's a lot of stuff that's happened systematically that has made people poor. So and they brought it up to, like, I don't want to ignore the fact there's systematic issues. Then why would you say being poor is a choice? Like, well,
I think on some level you could argue that it is.
like,
I wouldn't say it's a choice. I would say people have bad habits.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's necessarily a. Like, no one's making the choice to be poor to be poor. People are making choices that make them poor.
Yeah.
You know? Like, they don't want to be poor. They make choices that get them there, which, granted, some of that's just risk.
Yeah.
Some of that's like, oh, I need to buy this so I can, I don't know, I need to buy the car to get to work. They lose their job, and now they have a car payment
Like,
to deal
their
with.
intent wasn't to be poor.
Have the disagreeer step forward.
All right, yeah. Majority of people.
We need to realize that these people are on the street not because of their own choosing, but because of the system that we live in perpetuates these things.
God, that smug-ass look.
Yeah, Smug is like, really?
Look,
Like, you don't believe that people want to be living harsh lives?
well, I guess what a lot of them were referring to as homeless people.
Yeah.
How a lot of them don't go to shelters because they rather stay on the streets. But my argument is that why do we have an approach that's only meant for one kind of person? I mean, in other countries, we let people do drugs in the rehab centers, and that slowly weans them off. We have examples of it working. So why do we have to have these zero tolerance rehab/shelters? It seems like if you're serving people with drug addictions and you have a zero drug addiction policy, it's like, well, we're just going to automatically reject the vast majority of the people we're serving. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, well,
Like,
okay.
a lot of people can't just do cold turkey.
Some will die. I mean,
Yeah.
even if they get those resources, it's like, why put them through that?
I come from a family that once relied on welfare and
We're
food
getting
stamps,
stun locked.
and I
Yeah.
am blessed enough to make millions of dollars in real estate. But had I bought real estate from 2005 to 2008,
Yep.
I'd probably be bankrupt today. I just bought at the right time.
People wish to be rich, they don't want to be rich. The difference is, do you take action? That being said, I agree with a lot of your points you're making about people not really having the resources or the opportunity to have any kind of action plan.
Some people don't even want to be rich. Like, I don't want to be rich. Like, but I also don't want to be poor. I'm happy in the middle. And I would want to live in society where they could perpetuate people to lift themselves out of poverty through programs and just be in the middle.
I think that's a pretty reasonable thing. I think a lot of people feel that way. Like, at the end of the day, most people, the dichotomy of rich versus poor, I thought was very interesting because, in a way, it does symbolize where we're going, right? The high stratification, the fact that there really is no middle.
Yeah. Just
So.
rich and poor.
What's the next one?
Billionaires should not exist.
So I'll add my perspective on that one first. So yeah, 100%. I mean, what I heard it. I forgot exactly where I heard it from, but most of the billionaires that live now can't even spend that money in several lifetimes if they tried. Keeping that in mind, they run businesses that get disproportionate amount of services from the government. Like, Amazon has all these warehouses around the country, right? Cops have to answer phone calls from them. We have to run infrastructure to them. Firefighters have to go to them if they catch fire. So, they get a huge amount of services out of the government, out of taxes, out of our existing systems. So, why can't we extract equivalent or even greater value from these companies through taxes, through, and again, like, could you imagine the good that can come out of using that money?
Mm.
The overwhelming good that can be used. But the problem is,
I mean, Elon knew. He
Elon
knew that
knew.
with the amount of money he had, he could have stopped world hunger. And
Oh,
he even
yeah.
said, yeah, I can make a plan. I can do it. And then he never did it because at the end of the day, they don't want to help you. They want to help themselves.
that's true.
You know, he talked a big game, right? Well, I don't know, was the UN basically saying, like, oh, yeah, Elon could spend the money and do it. And he's like, no, bullshit, I'll make my own plan. And he never executed that plan. Because much like the guy said in the Jubilee video, it's like, do they really want to do this? Do they want to be rich? Well, I'll say this, Elon really didn't want to help the poor. You know, he didn't take any action other than making a big game on Twitter. You know, like, it's just dumb. Like, if you're just going to have it sit in your bank account and not help the U.S. in any way, just let it help people. Why should you just squander it by just looking at the fancy number in your fucking Wells Fargo account? You know, like it'd be better utilized elsewhere.
Well, what would you say to those who'd say, oh, that money is being used to make big investments in the economy? Because, that's how banking systems work. But, on one hand, that might be true, but that same money could do the same good if it was spread throughout the
As part of
throughout the economy.
this, they still fuck up their money by making these big deals with banks. You can make an argument that it'd be more okay if they spread out their banking investments with a bunch of smaller banks, but they don't do that. Like, you look at Silicon Valley Bank, there was a bunch of people with a shit ton of money putting all their money into Silicon Valley, despite the fact that they're only going to be reimbursed $125K, but they did it because this bank can support and give them lush deals. And what happened? That destroyed the economy. Biden had to give out one of the biggest bailouts because they decided, oh yeah, we'll put all of our eggs in this one basket instead of helping smaller little community banks by
That's
putting
a
our
good
money
point,
into
yeah.
their banks. Into like local unions and local credit. Like,
That's a good
you know,
point. The rich bank kind of irresponsibly.
yeah. As you can say that, oh, well, I'm putting all my money in the bank and the bank will give out loans. Well, you also don't do that right because you put all your eggs in fucking one basket and it exploded. And then the government has to come out and bail you out because at the end of the day, the government helps rich people stay rich. They wouldn't do that for the poor. They're not going to give the poor people back their house. No, they're like, well, fuck, you ran your luck, you're shit out of luck. But no, if you're rich at Silicon Valley Bank, they'll just give you all the money you wanted.
That's just not true. Billionaires are perfect.
Yeah.
Folks,
Ah!
Oh, Daddy, bye. The lighting did not
I'm
do
gonna
it well.
win re-election. I need you.
Fine.
Oh, maybe.
Okay.
Personally, I don't think there's an issues with billionaires existing. The issue for me
You're
is
wrong.
that they need to be held accountable the same way poor people do.
Yeah,
I hate to say it, but I hate to say it, but hold on. You talk. I'm gonna
And
bring
I'm
this
talking
up.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, they get loopholes, they get leeways because at the end of the day, that billionaires, really rich people, they have say in government, they have say in tax law.
Check it out. This is why billionaires are a problem.
Yeah.
They own 1% of the entire world's population, owns half the world's wealth, while
Yeah.
the poorest own only a percent, less than a percentage. That's the problem with billionaires, is the fact that the wealth of whole nations, generations of people, and are being held in one place.
Yeah. Hello, new viewer. We're going over Jubilee's
Should
video.
billionaires
talking about-
exist?
Yeah, right now they're on the question: should billionaires exist? And yeah,
We think
hope you
not,
enjoy.
because we don't like it when half the wealth of the entire planet is owned by 1%
Yeah.
of the world.
Why should the 1% own 50% of everything?
Now, some people will say, "Oh, but 1% of the world." Oh yeah, 80. Yeah, here you go. 8 people own 50% of the world's wealth. Bill Gates, and Mancio Ortega, Warren Buffett, Carlos Slim. What the fuck's
Warren
Elon?
Buffett is the one that said, "I paid less in taxes than my secretary."
Yeah, that's the
So-
problem with billionaires, is that
Yeah.
by the very nature of them existing, other people are asked out.
And also, just when you become so powerful, you become part of the government. Like, you
Yeah.
have say in government. You can't be ignored because whatever happens to you will affect elections. You can't just deny the wishes of these huge business owners when denying them would mean, like, the end of your local community.
You want to regulate my industry? Okay, let me just
Yeah.
pull my factory out of your tiny
And he
struggling
doesn't care.
state.
He'll end the local region of businesses because at the end of the day, they have tens, nearly $100 billion. They don't care. But what they do care is, reserving their power, keeping their powers.
Status quo. Maintaining the status quo.
Yeah. And they'll take off a few local businesses if it means that local representative in the HOR starts siding with you.
That's a good point. That's another problem with billionaires, is that they fundamentally,
and that doesn't even go through super PACs.
There's an argument, actually, that fundamentally speaking, billionaires and even multimillionaires arguably make our they make democracy illegitimate.
Yeah.
In a sense.
Because they're too big to not be considered.
They have 10 votes.
Yeah.
Proportionally.
And if you're just someone on a local level, they have a lot of the votes. Because if your local business, if your local cities are basically held together by the regional Walmarts, you're not going to deny Walmart's wishes. You're sort of hamstrung by them because they're keeping your city alive.
Yeah, keep this in mind too. That Walmart closes, now you got 500 very angry laid off people.
Yeah.
So, and that's a lot of people in a local election. So, in an election that is, 10,000 people?
Yeah, and politicians, they're not dumb. They know this, right? That's their job, is to know the effects of what happens. And so when they see that, and then, the Walmart leader is like, hey, can you give me a tax break? Can you give me some leeway here? They're going to give it.
Billionaires are bad.
Yeah.
Incredible amount of value they've given to society. I won't even talk about a huge, crazy billionaire. I'll talk about Jay-Z, who's a billionaire. He made amazing music. That's how he became a billionaire. And so I don't think it's the government's job to interject and say, okay, you have too much, we need to...
Well,
there's a difference between old money and new money. That is a big thing. If you make money as a musician, that's different than making money as the Walmart CEO.
I would argue that even in that system, though, in order to make $1 billion, even as a music guy, you got to make the CDs, you got to have the Rwandan slave children make your shoes.
And I'll say this: you probably were a billionaire long before you became a billionaire because the record label stole a shit ton of your money.
That's true. That's true. But keep in mind, though, a lot of those hats are made by children.
Yeah, go to the sweatshops.
Yeah.
Give it away.
Money ain't clean, man. No money in this world's clean.
Why are you looking at it with fucking contempt?
I mean,
Jay-Z,
it would also
Dick
never
Ryder,
happen in any other arena. No one's going to go, hey, Simone Biles, you have too many gold medals. We're going to take them from you, and we're going to give them to the other people who weren't as talented
Great
as you.
gymnast.
I completely agree.
I completely disagree. I feel like that is the government's job. And Jay-Z, like you said, Jay-Z made his money from music. That's his labor. He's a musician. He's selling his talent. But then when he invested in the alcohol, then he's using other people who are harvesting the wheat, the agave. They're breaking their back. They're using their labor.
Hey, agave, tequila, man.
Hey.
That ain't whiskey. That's tequila. Yeah.
This man likes to drink.
Yeah, he knows. He's like...
So do you think that you should invest in those people? Should they just say, the hell with your dreams, I'm not going to invest in you?
I'm saying.
What about the job?
What do you mean?
The investor doesn't care about your dream, they care about profit.
They don't care about your job either.
Yeah.
Your job's just a happy
And the
coincidence.
thing is, when they own your dream, it's no longer their dream. It becomes whether or not you can make more money in your quarterly report. So your dream might be to make the best tequila, but the investor dream is to make the best quarterly report. All right? Don't get it twisted.
Yeah. Your job is... it's a happy accident.
Yeah.
Having jobs.
It's and the thing is, imagine if Russia came. Oh, actually, I guess another point. Would be imagine. Give it 20 years. Saudi Arabia keeps buying up sport industries. How would you feel if the only way to get into sports is to join Saudi Arabia? Because right now they're spending billions on people like Cristiano Ronaldo. They try to get Tiger Woods. They're getting a bunch of people. We could see a future where the only way to get into the sports industry is to work for the people that, killed Jamal Khashoggi, that
they
made
kill
it something they couldn't
homosexuals.
drive until a decade ago.
Yeah.
And, how would you feel if the only way to work is to work for people who fucking hate you and would kill people like you? That's a really fucked up world to be in.
Your existence is halfway between an obstacle and a pawn.
Yeah.
Your existence really does deviate between those two.
But because we live in the top of the world, we don't have to really care.
Yeah.
It's off their labor.
How much do you pay your employees?
Yeah, I like how...
Yeah, but how much are they getting paid for the jobs? Or those jobs in the third world where they're getting paid pennies,
Yeah,
and then
versus
Jay-Z
no
makes
job.
millions.
That's not... I hate see, that is a first world mindset.
Yeah.
It's like, at least they have a job. It's like, no, those
So, no.
people in the third world deserve dignity.
It's like you came in and you took advantage of all the resources, and you're like, now work for me.
I gave you a job, poor
Yeah.
people. Like, no, like they deserve dignity. They deserve to own their own resources.
I pay my employees like incredibly well, and I let them choose their own hours. Someone who works for me is a single mother. I pay her $50 an hour, and I think that people that are providing jobs and opportunities, you can hate on them all you want, but at the end of the day, like nobody would work that job if it wasn't in some way, shape, or form worth it.
Okay, so
You wouldn't
here.
work that job unless it's worth it? No. You
Hold on
work
here, I
jobs
got
because
you.
you need to work jobs.
Coca-Cola kills
Yeah.
union leaders.
If people say you wouldn't work the job unless it's worth it, no. If you look at like stats,
Hey, guys, so you wanna see how-
people will take jobs because they are literally.
Do you guys want to see how they make the third world work?
Mm.
In 1989, unionist Jose Avelino Chicano was killed by Coca-Cola's Pasto plant.
Yeah.
This year, during negotiations, he was oh no, sorry, not him. Oscar, sorry, we have a bunch of shit blocking the thing. A union leader of the plant, Oscar Dario Soto Polo, was murdered when the union denounced the killings of plant chiefs of security, charged its leaders with terrorism and rebellion.
Yeah. So if you want to start a basic union in the third world, where you should be grateful you have a job, they will just kill you because you dare to say anything. You dare to even ask for a little bit of cooperation.
Oh, but I gave them jobs.
Yeah. You gave them jobs where if they deny it, you will be killed. Now, what does that sound like to you? What does that sound like? I'm pretty sure you wouldn't decide to live in the third world.
Extremes, you can't do that. So that's not possible at scale. In order to survive, you must work for someone else. That forces wages down, right? People can't just go, F you, I'm not gonna work, I'm gonna chill and work on my novel or do whatever. So that's the part where I agree with you. I'm a supporter of UBI so that people aren't forced to work. Now where I disagree is that we don't pay people based on what they need. And you were kind of pointing to this. I give the minimum effort if you pay me minimum wage. But there's certain jobs that are not worth $15 an hour, just frankly not worth it. Maybe they're worth $5, maybe they're worth $2. I want you to watch.
I think that's a very inhuman way to look at it. It's a very dehumanizing way to look at it.
Where do you live?
At the end of the day, well, no, hold on, just give me a chance. At the end of the day, you need a human being to fill that role.
Yeah.
That human being needs food. That human being needs water and housing, which means at the end of the day, their wage has to be enough to live on, or you won't have a person to fill the job.
Because that's the standard. That's why they're doing anything for you. Is because they want to be able to live in society. And maybe if you lived in a place where things were still 5 cents for a bottle of pop, pay them $5 an hour because the economy's going so great. At a place where you can still afford a $15 rent. Pay them $5 an hour, go crazy, but we don't live in that world.
Yeah.
Where an hour's worth of human labor is worth that much.
But even then though, it's just crazy for someone to say like, because what you're saying is when you say certain jobs aren't worth $15, is you're basically saying certain people aren't worth.
Yeah.
That.
Well, so that's why like at Carnival Cruises, they'll get third world workers.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like, you're just worth pennies on the dollar.
Yeah, it's dehumanizing.
It is super dehumanizing, and we all know that work is worth a lot more, but they'll just extract it from people that don't have the rights or the legal protections.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because a lot of just a little background. A lot of cruises. A lot of cruise ships are registered in other countries with more lax labor laws.
And it's like you're not gonna get somebody in LA to do a job for you for $5 an hour if they're not, undocumented or from a third world.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you get a child to do it, but that's because they don't know better.
That or they're your kid.
You're just taking advantage of these people.
Yeah.